There is a 7-year-old golden retriever named Scout who has never once walked ahead of his owner without looking back. His owner, Marcus, is a high school history teacher who spends his days explaining the past to teenagers who are not always listening. He is the kind of man who notices small things. He has just never known what Scout was trying to tell him. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, Marcus clips the leash to Scout's collar and they head out together down the same familiar street. Scout pushes forward, nose low, tail sweeping slow arcs through the warm air. He reads the sidewalk like a library. And then, every 30 seconds or so, without fail, Scout stops. He turns his head over his shoulder. He finds Marcus's eyes. Then he turns back and keeps going. Marcus has always assumed Scout is checking to see if a treat is coming. He is wrong. And the truth of what Scout is actually doing is so ancient, so quietly devoted, that it might change the way you see every single walk you have ever taken. Think about the last time your dog looked back at you. Really picture it. The way their body pauses mid-step, the way their eyes find yours like they already know exactly where you are. We smile at it. We take a photo of it sometimes. But almost all of us have misread it completely. Most people think that glance is about pace, or food, or permission. Science tells a completely different story, one that begins not on a sidewalk, but somewhere ancient and cold and wild. To understand what your dog is doing in that moment, you have to go back, much further back than you might expect. In the wilderness, where the ancestors of all domestic dogs were shaped into what they are, survival was never a solo act. Wolf packs did not move through the forest as a loose collection of individuals doing their own thing. They moved as a single organism, a coordinated family. Research into wild pack behavior shows these groups were built not around aggression and rigid rank, but around deep family bonds and the kind of cooperative survival that takes generations to perfect. And because these early canines could not shout to each other across a dark forest without alerting prey or rivals, they developed something else, a sophisticated, silent system. Fleeting eye contact, body position, the geometry of who was walking where. Picture a family of wolves moving through deep snow at dusk. No one makes a sound, and yet every individual in that group knows exactly where the others are. They feel it. It is as instinctual as breathing. When Scout walks ahead of Marcus on the sidewalk, nose pressed to the ground, tail working back and forth, he is not just a dog enjoying an evening stroll. He is the forward scout of an ancient formation. He is mapping the terrain. He is doing what millions of years of survival built him to do. But here is the part that changes everything. His mind never leaves Marcus behind. Every few seconds, Scout's ancient brain is quietly calculating something most of us never think about: the distance between them, the geometry of the pack. And when that distance stretches just a little too wide, something inside him compels him to stop and look back. Not because he wants a treat, not because he is impatient, but because his DNA is whispering that the family formation is getting loose. And loose formations in the world his ancestors came from could cost someone their life. Scientists call what Scout is doing spatial anchoring. Marcus, without knowing it, has become the most important point on Scout's internal map. Not a landmark, not a tree or a corner, the anchor, the true north, the one fixed point that the entire walk is organized around. And what happens inside Scout's body when that anchor point gets too far away? That is where the story starts to get a little heartbreaking. That invisible pressure Scout feels when the distance grows too wide is not just a social preference. It is closer to alarm. A quiet, biological alarm that has been ringing in the chests of dogs for longer than recorded history. Imagine you are walking through a forest at night. No lights, no phone, and somewhere behind you, you realize you can no longer hear the footsteps of the person you came with. That feeling, that quick, hollow drop in your stomach, is something close to what your dog experiences when the invisible tether stretches past its limit. Scout does not feel this because he is anxious by nature. He feels it because he was built to feel it. Because in the world his ancestors navigated, the dog who stopped caring about the distance between pack members was the dog whose family got ambushed. Here is what most people do not know about a wolf pack moving through the wild. The most vulnerable position is not the front, it is the back. The rear of any moving group is where predators strike, where rival packs find their opening, where the separated and the slow are taken. And so the most experienced members of a wolf family, the ones carrying the deepest knowledge of survival, would position themselves at the flanks and the rear, watching, scanning, guarding the blind spots of the ones they loved. When Scout stops on that Tuesday evening sidewalk and turns his head to look back at Marcus, he is not looking at Marcus. He is looking past him. He is scanning what is behind Marcus's back. He is checking the shadows Marcus cannot see. He is doing, on a quiet residential street in a world without predators, exactly what his great ancestors did in snowfields and dense forest at the edge of winter. He is guarding Marcus's blind spot. Think about that for a moment. Your dog is not following you on your walk. In the deepest biological sense, your dog is protecting you on it. There is a name for this behavior in science. It is called backward vigilance, the deliberate, costly act of pausing your own forward progress to scan for threats behind you. Costly because every second spent looking back is a second not spent hunting, not spent eating, not spent resting. It is a sacrifice, a small, daily, completely unnoticed sacrifice that your dog makes for you every single time you clip that leash. A woman named Terry used to get frustrated on her morning walks with her old Labrador, Bo. He was slow, always stopping, always turning around. She thought he was just stubborn. She thought he was making the walk harder than it needed to be. It was not until Bo was gone that she realized, looking back at old photos, that his body in almost every one of them was angled slightly toward her, not away, always toward. Even when he was looking forward, part of him was facing her. She said she cried for 20 minutes in a parking lot the day she understood what that meant. Scout does the same thing. Marcus just has not noticed yet. And here is where science adds one more layer that makes the whole picture almost too beautiful to hold. This behavior is not random. It is not triggered by boredom or habit. It is directly tied to the strength of what researchers call the secure base effect. Dogs who feel deeply bonded to their humans, who carry a sense of safety and trust in that relationship, are actually able to explore more freely. They venture further. They sniff longer. They move with confidence. Because they know, at some deep cellular level, that the anchor is there, that the tether holds. Dogs with weaker or more anxious attachments do the opposite. They stay close. They hover. They cannot explore at all because they cannot trust that the distance is safe. The over-the-shoulder glance is not neediness. It is the signature of a dog who loves you enough to check on you and trusts you enough to keep walking after they do. The tension you feel on a leash when your dog pulls is not just physical. Studies measuring leash tension during walks found that pulling is often the dog trying to negotiate the geometry of that invisible tether, trying to close a gap that feels, to them, dangerously wide. What looks like bad leash manners is often, underneath, a dog desperately trying to hold the formation together. The next time you feel that pull, try something instead of correcting it. Stop walking. Let Scout, or your dog, turn and find your eyes. Then crouch down just slightly, soften your face, and take one slow breath. You will often see their body drop out of that tight, anxious posture almost immediately. Because what they needed was not slack in the leash, they needed confirmation that the anchor was steady, that the pack was safe. That is not a training tip. That is a conversation. And your dog has been trying to have it with you for years. But the walk does not happen only on quiet streets with soft light and familiar smells. Sometimes it happens in the city, in the noise, in the chaos. And when it does, that backward glance takes on a completely different and even more extraordinary meaning. There is a moment that happens on busy streets that most dog owners have seen but never quite understood. Your dog is moving fine, relaxed, nose working, body loose. Then something happens. A truck backfires. A stranger moves too fast. A dog behind a fence erupts into barking. And your dog freezes and turns and looks directly at your face. Not at the noise, not at the threat, at you. Scout did this once when a city bus groaned past them on an unfamiliar road. Marcus felt the leash go tight. He looked down, and Scout was already looking up at him. Still, quiet, waiting. Not for a command, for information. That moment is called social referencing, and it is one of the most astonishing things a domestic dog is capable of. When your dog encounters something ambiguous, something their ancient brain cannot immediately classify as safe or dangerous, they do not rely solely on their own senses. They turn to you. They read your face, your posture, the microtension in your shoulders, the pace of your breathing. And based entirely on what they find there, they decide how to feel about what just happened. This is not a trick. It is not something dogs were trained to do. It is the result of a transformation so profound and so ancient that scientists are still working to fully understand it. Somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, depending on who you ask, the ancestors of domestic dogs made a choice that no other animal on Earth has fully replicated. They stepped away from the wolf pack. They moved toward the fire, toward the humans. And in doing so, they began to rewire themselves, not over decades, over millennia. Generation by generation, the dogs who could read human faces survived better, ate better, were kept, were loved, were protected through long winters. The ones who could not read us were left behind. What this means is that your dog's ability to look at your face in a moment of uncertainty and extract emotional information from it is not a coincidence. It is the product of thousands of years of natural selection. Your dog is, in the most literal scientific sense, purpose-built to understand you. Better, in some ways, than another human would. Think about a child at a birthday party who sees a large dog they have never met. The child looks immediately to their parent's face. If the parent smiles, the child relaxes. If the parent tenses, the child pulls back. Dogs do exactly the same thing. Except the parent they are looking to is you. And they have been doing it since before your civilization existed. Marcus learned this by accident. On that day with the bus, he had been distracted, stressed from work. His jaw was tight. His shoulders were up. And Scout, reading all of that in a single glance, decided the bus was dangerous. He pressed against Marcus's leg for the rest of that block, would not move away from him. 2 weeks later, same street, same route. This time Marcus was relaxed, laughing quietly at something on his phone before they left the house. The bus came again. Scout glanced back. Marcus's face was open, easy, unbothered. Scout watched him for 1 second, then turned back around and kept walking. Same dog, same bus, completely different response. Because the only variable that changed was Marcus's face. Your emotional state during a walk is not background noise to your dog. It is the primary data source. It is the weather forecast for the entire outing. A dog walking with a calm, present owner is having a fundamentally different biological experience than a dog walking with someone anxious, distracted, or hurried. The invisible tether does not just carry love, it carries information, constantly, in both directions. And this is where the story of Scout and Marcus, and of every dog and every owner who has ever walked together, becomes something almost too tender to say out loud. You think you are taking your dog for a walk. Your dog believes, with every ancient fiber of their being, that they are taking you somewhere safe. The leash in your hand is just cloth and metal. The real connection is something else entirely. Something written into them before language existed. Something that chose you specifically out of all the loud and confusing world as the one worth watching over. But what happens to that invisible tether when the walk ends and the door closes behind you? When the silence of the house settles in and your dog is left to wait? That is where the story reaches something close to sacred. There is a sound that every dog knows. It does not matter what neighborhood they live in, what breed they are, or how long they have been with you. The sound of your specific footsteps coming down a hallway. The particular weight of your key turning in a lock. The way your car sounds different from every other car on the street. Scout knows the sound of Marcus's truck before it turns the corner. He has known it for years. He is already at the door before Marcus's hand reaches the handle. Most people find this charming, a sweet quirk, a party trick of love. But the science underneath that waiting, underneath that listening, underneath that perfect stillness at the door with the tail beginning to move, is something that belongs less in a cute video and more in a quiet conversation about what devotion actually looks like when it has no words. When you leave, your dog does not simply wait. Their body responds. The invisible tether, the one Scout maintains so carefully on every walk, stretches to a distance it was never designed to handle. And their internal chemistry shifts. Stress chemicals flood quietly through their system, not in a dramatic way, not always visibly, but measurably, consistently, every single time. A retired teacher named Helen had a small mixed breed named Fig. Fig was not a dramatic dog. He did not howl or destroy things when Helen left. He simply went to the spot nearest the front door and lay down, chin on his paws, eyes toward the entrance. And he stayed there, for hours sometimes, not sleeping, not playing, just holding the post, just watching the door through which his whole world had disappeared. Helen did not know this for years. She assumed Fig napped happily while she was gone. It was a neighbor, mentioning it casually over a fence one afternoon, who told her. Fig had been lying at that door every single day. Waiting. Holding the line. She went home and sat on the floor with him for a long time after that. What Fig was doing has a name in behavioral science. It is called the secure base effect in reverse. When the attachment figure, the human, is present, the dog can relax, can explore, can rest. When the attachment figure disappears, the dog's nervous system quietly activates, their senses sharpen, their body orients toward the last known location of their anchor, and they wait. Not passively, actively, the way a lighthouse keeper waits, purposefully, with the full weight of their attention aimed at a single point. And then you come back. This is the part that researchers have described in language that is unusually emotional for a scientific paper. When a securely attached dog is reunited with their person after even a brief separation, the biological cascade that follows is extraordinary. The same chemical rush of warmth and recognition that floods a mother's body the first time she holds her newborn child moves through your dog when you walk back through that door. It is not metaphor. It is measurable. It is real. Scout loses his mind a little when Marcus comes home. Not in a destructive way, in a pure way. His whole body participates. His tail, his eyes, his small whining sounds, the way he presses his nose into Marcus's hand and holds it there. Marcus always laughs and says Scout acts like he was gone for a year when it was only 4 hours. What Marcus does not fully understand yet is that to Scout, in some biological sense, he was. Time does not pass for a waiting dog the way it passes for us. We have calendars and deadlines and the comfortable cognitive knowledge that the person we love is simply at work and will return by evening. Scout has none of that. He has the tether, and the tether was gone. And now it is back. And every reunion, no matter how ordinary, is experienced by your dog as something close to a miracle. This is why the way you come home matters more than you know. Not the grand gestures, not the excited baby talk, though Scout does not mind that at all. The quality of your presence in that first minute. Whether you put your phone down, whether you get low, whether you let the reunion be real. Dogs read the homecoming the way they read the walk. For information, for safety, for confirmation that the tether still holds, that the anchor is steady, that the pack is intact, and the long wait was worth it. The next time you come home to a dog who is absolutely certain your return is the best thing that has happened since the last time you returned, try this. Before you do anything else, before you check your messages or set down your bag, get down on their level. Place your hand flat and still on their side. Let them press into you. And just stay there for 60 seconds. Research suggests your dog's breathing will begin to slow and match yours within minutes. That synchronized breath is not an accident. It is the invisible tether, reconnecting. It is two nervous systems, one human and one ancient and devoted, finding each other again after the long, quiet hours of separation. That is not a cute moment for a video. That is one of the most honest things that will happen to you today. And now we have arrived at the place this whole story has been quietly moving toward. Back to Scout. Back to Marcus. Back to the thing that has been true this entire time, even before either of them knew the words for it. There is a Tuesday evening that Marcus will not forget for a long time. Scout is 7 now. His muzzle has gone soft and pale at the edges, the way golden retrievers do, like the years have dusted him gently with something quiet. He moves a little slower on the uphill parts of their route. He stops a little more often, not to scan for threats, but to simply stand in the evening air and breathe it in. Marcus has started shortening the walk without mentioning it to anyone, just quietly turning them around a block earlier than usual. On this particular Tuesday, Marcus is not thinking about wolf packs or attachment theory or the ancient geometry of survival. He is just walking, watching the light go gold through the trees at the end of the street, feeling Scout's familiar pull on the leash, steady and warm like a handshake that has never changed. And then Scout stops, turns, looks back at Marcus with those amber eyes, the same look he has been giving him for 7 years. Unhurried, certain, like a question that already knows its answer. Marcus stops too, and for the first time, instead of tugging the leash or reaching for a treat, he just looks back. They stay like that for a few seconds. Two creatures on a sidewalk in the ordinary evening light, looking at each other across a short distance that contains, if you know where to look, millions of years of love. Your dog's life is not long. This is the thing we know and do not say enough, because saying it out loud makes the evening walks feel different, makes the muddy paw prints on the floor feel different, makes everything feel different in a way that is almost too much to carry. The average dog lives somewhere between 10 and 15 years. That sounds like a number until you start counting backward from wherever you are right now. Until you realize that the dog asleep in the next room, the one who knows the sound of your car, the one who has memorized the weight of your footsteps, the one who has been quietly guarding your blind spot on every single walk you have ever taken together, is living inside a window of time that is already closing. They do not know this. That is perhaps the most tender thing of all. Your dog wakes up every morning with the full and uncomplicated belief that the day ahead contains you. That is enough. That has always been enough. You are not a chapter in their life. You are the whole book. Every walk, every reunion at the door, every quiet evening on the couch, every moment they looked back over their shoulder to make sure you were still there, all of it, the entirety of what they will ever know of joy and safety and belonging, fits inside the years they have with you. And you are still here, right now. Which means the book is still open. So here is what we are asking you to do in the next 60 seconds. Not later today, not after this video ends, now. If your dog is anywhere near you, go to them. Get down on the floor. Place your hand on their side and feel them breathe. Look at their face. Really look. The specific way their eyes soften when they find yours. The particular way their tail moves when they know you are truly present and not just nearby. Let it land. Let yourself feel the full weight of what is in that moment. The ancient loyalty, the daily devotion, the millions of years of evolution that somehow produced this one animal who chose above all things to love you specifically. That is not ordinary. That has never been ordinary. Tell us in the comments, does your dog look back at you on walks? Do they press against the door and wait the way Fig did? We want to hear about them. Their names, their quirks, the small faithful things they do that you have maybe never had the words for until today. This channel is being built for people who see their dogs the way dogs deserve to be seen, not as pets or accessories or background characters, but as the profound, ancient, quietly heroic creatures they actually are. If that is you, subscribe. You are exactly who we made this for. And next time, we are going to talk about something your dog does every single night before they fall asleep. Something so small you have probably never noticed it, that turns out to be one of the most deeply loving things one creature can do for another. You will not want to miss it.